Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
I am Samantha B., Chief Content Officer of Arnold Palmer's Jockstrap. Filled to the brim with manliness.
Filled to the brim. Every Thursday, you're invited to the best dinner party hosted by me and Sam, where we plunder the Daily Beast newsroom and we talk about the people and the stories of the week. And on today's show, with less than 2 weeks until the election, we're talking to Beast of the Week, the man of the hour, the guru of democratic politics, and coiner of the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." That's my impression
That
of...
was wonderful.
That's my impression of James Carville.
Oh, dear.
We'll also be joined by the Daily Beast reporter Harry Lambert to take us through two stories every media person is obsessed with right now. Joe Rogan's upcoming interview on Friday with Donald Trump, and the New York Magazine reporter Olivia Nuzzi and her departure from the magazine after a digital affair with RFK Jr.
Well, he's going to have to explain that whole story to me. Both of them, actually, because I am resistant to information across both of them.
This podcast is brought to you by Five9. Have you ever had a customer service experience where everything just works? It feels like we've reached a point where every customer experience should feel that way. And you're in luck, because Five9 is changing the entire way customer experiences work. They use AI to create smarter, more informed interactions, so you can get your problems handled in a way that's more human. Five9 creates intelligent customer experiences so everything feels personalized. That's just one small part of what their tech can do. It's already changing the game for companies from Under Armour to Alaska Airlines. And you can learn more about next level intelligence CX at five9.com/beast.
Meantime, Joanna, you're in New York Magazine this week. You power player.
Oh, please.
You mogul.
Please. It's not a very flattering photo of me.
I did see the photo, and I had a curiosity in my heart, and I said, does Joanna like this photo? Often, when there are photos of me in a thing, I think, that was the one you chose. Thank you so kindly.
It's funny because I've got, I think, 13 texts from people saying, why did they choose that photo? A, it doesn't look like you, and B, it couldn't be more unattractive.
It does not actually look like you. Yes, it does not look like you at all. And you know what? I did notice that the women, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say that it's kind of a little bit gendered. The women's photos in the issue are not, it's all mouths open. That's a choice. A choice was made.
Well, 2 or 3 people pointed out to me that the photos of the women were much less flattering than the photos of the men.
Yeah, the men sort of get to look serious and pensive, just like looking into the middle distance, thinking a big thought.
Yes.
And the women all sort of look like they're chewing gum at various stages of masticating or something, or just like being shrill.
Yes, being shrill.
Shrilly shrieking something at an underling. Oh, this is so typical. There have been so many times when I've done a photo shoot or whatever, and they're like, why don't you just make, okay, I think this would be so fun if you just made like a really mean face. Like you're just like, you're so grim. And I'm like, I will never do that. In fact, now that I know that you want that photo, I'm going to sit here with a frozen smile on my face until this session is over. You will not catch me grimacing.
So what is that? It's just the cliche of trying to make women who are powerful less powerful. I mean, Gayle King, who is an exceptionally beautiful woman, looked really bad in it.
It's fine. It's just a stern, there's just something to it. They just love, everybody loves to, it's like funny in the moment. Everybody's like, wouldn't it be funny in the moment if you just looked really stern? And then that photo lives forever and you just look like demonic.
Well, I'm happy to look demonic from time to time.
I'm not saying that you look demonic. I'm just saying that I think they could have chosen a better photograph. And I think that's a very typical situation that I relate to.
Well, you've had way more photo shoots than I have. Do you find that the whole thing is set up to somehow undermine your success?
I don't think so. I think that it is more like in the moment, everybody's trying to think of a fun new angle. And I know from just being personally very experienced that if you put a clown wig on me because you think it's like a funny joke, it's not going to be funny at all in 2 years when everyone uses that photo for other things. It just comes back like anything you try to do that has a certain tone just comes back and haunts you later in life and literally lives forever. There's a photograph of, okay, let me just, I'm going on too long.
We're going there.
When I first started working at The Daily Show in the year 2003, nobody really, it wasn't, everything was very casual. We bought our own outfits. We've talked about that. It was totally fine. But one day they were like, can you go down to the studio because they want to take a picture or something? And I didn't really have any outfits and I didn't have any makeup and I put on a lipstick or something. It was just like really very casual. It was just a very casual experience. Went downstairs, took a photo, and then that photo was my headshot for years for the show continues to exist. It's still out there. And all I've ever wanted to do is get rid of it. It's awful. My hands are doing something weird. I don't have any makeup on. It's not lit. And so, it's like something that you have to kind of think about, unfortunately. And I hate it, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's very different for women than it is for men, obviously.
It's very different. It's very different. Very, very different.
But you had a very good shot outside the Minetta Lane Theatre for your menopause show, which I loved last week. It was really, really fun. And it was a bit like being in line with, 350. What is a good collective noun for 350 menopausal women?
It's a community.
Is it a community? Is it a Jill Stein of women?
Don't even say the word Jill Stein to me. It gives me a hot flash. I just got a burbling in my tummy, like Vesuvius. Can't even say her name. Just call her Joan Stern. That's what we used to call her on my show. We would not give her even the oxygen of saying her name. Jill Stein would never come to my show. She hates me. And I dislike her
Well, there were a lot of women that looked like Jill Stein standing in line.
That's fair.
But I've never been to a show where there was such a level of excitement and energy, both before and after.
Thank you.
And many congrats.
Thank you so much. It was so fun to do. It was incredibly satisfying. I feel like only doing 3 of those, it feels sad to me. I think I should do it
Can't you take it on the road?
I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I do need to do something because it was so incredibly satisfying to perform, just so personally fulfilling. And I actually think that talking in a really direct way about perimenopause is something that is so needed and is actually remarkably rare. I also went to Naomi Watts's symposium on women in midlife. That was good. And Stacey London came to my show and she gave me a gift bag filled with sacks of products.
I saw
lotions, potions.
I saw Stacey. But one of the things I liked about the show was that it talks about the snake oil that's being sold to women going through this particular stage of their life, which, as we know, 51% of the population go through if, as long as they get to the age of it. And it seems to me that almost every Hollywood celebrity now has a vaginal cream they're trying to sell.
My children I've been granted a lot of gift boxes so for the last little while, and honestly my children are like, another vagina cream, oh my God, because they're always trying to go through my products in the bathroom, and I'm like, don't touch those dusty old creams. Mommy doesn't use those. I love my HRT and I love my food grade coconut oil, and that's good for me.
Let's get to our beast of the week this week, James Carville, a singular Democratic voice who just wrote in the New York Times that Kamala Harris is going to win. James is a political strategist. James feels all wrong. I feel like I should actually call him James Carville. James Carville is a political strategist. He's a commentator and he's one of the most colourful personalities in American politics. He's really best known for his role in Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign, which broke the Democratic famine after Jimmy Carter. And Carville's sharp wit, his unfiltered commentary, and his mastery of political strategy have made him a household name. From consulting on elections worldwide to skewering opponents on cable news, Carville's influence spans decades. He's a provocateur and he's a true Southern original who never shies away from a good fight, whether in the war room or on air. He's also the subject of a documentary currently in theatres called Carville, Winning is Everything, Stupid.
Oh, there we are.
Ooh.
There you are. Hi.
You did it. Hi.
Technology 100, James Carville, nothing.
Always.
Unbeaten. I love the Daily Beast. Thank you. I read it every 4 times a day.
Oh my
Excellent
gosh.
man. Excellent man. Well, we're very
Excellent.
pleased. We're very pleased to have you. And we know that you're a busy man, so we're happy to get straight to it.
Straight, I like that.
Listen, a lot of Democrats, I mean, most Democrats, all Democrats, we don't understand why this election is so close. Why do you think it's so close? What the hell is in people's minds?
I do not care. I only think of how it ends up. Okay, we have all of this 13-day to go analysis and angst. A guy like me, you don't know if it's going to be close on election day. Just stay focused on what you have to do for 13 days. And honestly, don't try to interpret something before it happens. We spend too much time interpreting something happens as opposed to trying to affect what happens. And I'm not a social analyst. I'm not a whatever. I'm trying to help people put coalitions together, to stay focused, to do things to win. And when it's over, like anybody else, I'll probably share people's thoughts about what happened. But until it happens, let's do what we can to affect the outcome.
You're constantly talking to people behind the scenes. What is the mood just pure chaos? Or do you think that people are moving in the right direction at the pace that you would want?
I've actually people come up to me, and like a couple will come up, and the wife will say, people call me Mr. Carville, what's going to happen? And I said, I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. And the husband will say, he knows. He's just not telling you. They know. The truth of the matter is, I don't know much more than you do about what's going to happen.
Right.
You see the same information I do. I talk to people. I talk to insiders. And the body of knowledge between insiders and just mostly informed public is not that. It really is. We don't have some secret, no more than somebody really knows who's going to win the World Series. In every minute that you spend trying to predict an event and not affect an event is a minute that you're wasting.
Isn't there something to be said for trying to understand why a candidate who's lost before appears to be doing, or at least it appears to be neck and neck?
Why would you be worried about that right now? Assuming that we're all concerned and care about the outcome. And the election has not happened yet. By the way, he's lost in 18, 20, and 22. We haven't lost an election in 2 years. And I really, I want to be respectful and not curt here. I'm not interpreting things. I'm trying to affect things.
Right, but I don't know how you affect things if you don't understand why why Trump has the support he does.
He's lost 3 elections in a row.
True.
Okay,
True.
we just don't know that. We're just assuming things that haven't happened yet.
Okay, well then what should the Democrats be focused on in the last 10 days until the election? Is there actually something that you think could happen that would make a difference?
So what you have to do in politics, you have to choose to do one thing is to choose to not do another thing. There's 2 emerging things that are kind of wanted. One is he's really cognitively out of it. He went 39 minutes with Ave Maria. One sentence has nothing to do with another sentence. We ran Biden out because he was old, but the New York Times doesn't run enough stories about Trump's age. You hear that crap over and over and over again. There are other people like General Milley or General Kelly that says fascist to his core. The former director of national intelligence, former United States Senator Dan Coates, who say that he thinks he's actually an agent of the Kremlin. You got to pick one. Is he an incompetent, incontinent, dithering, slobbering buffoon, or is he dangerous to the idea of the American Republic? You can't have both.
I don't understand why you can't have both. Why are they mutually exclusive?
Because if I'm incompetent and I'm not connected and I don't know anything, and I'm suffering from dementia, I can't be a threat to you. I could only be a threat to myself. If you're trying to convince me that something is a threat to me, I have to feel like it's a threat and it will carry out the threat that it is. That's why.
Do you think that there's a sense that people have lost faith in democracy? Or my question is, why don't people seem to value it more? There seems to be almost no accountability for his actions.
Why don't we have the election and then do that? Why are we doing that? And I'm trying to be respectful here. We're having an election. So you tell people we don't have a democracy and we're probably going to have record turnout. So I'm going to the poll and I'm voting, and I have the Daily Beast telling me we don't have a democracy. Well, wait a minute, I'm voting. Right? We are analyzing the election before the event. Let's have the World Series and then talk about who had better pitching or base running.
But isn't the point that he keeps saying this will be the last election?
That's against everything that the United States is. Yes, that fits totally into the authoritarian, anti-American, anti-constitutional thing that I think we should be running on.
Let's talk about third-party candidates, because you ran Bill Clinton's campaign in 92 when Ross Perot helped Clinton win. Do you see a third-party candidate? I don't want to say that we're projecting, but do you think it helps or that it hurts to put Jill Stein's name on a billboard or in an ad that everyone's listening to? Do you think it amplifies her message?
First of all, she's a Russian agent. You heard me say that. Try to sue me. And what you should do, you're very educated, technically sophisticated people, have somebody during this podcast put in photo Jill Stein, Vladimir Putin, General Flynn.
Yeah.
Right. They come up
I'm
together.
Familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were in Russia in 2016. She was on RT. She got more votes in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin than Hillary lost by. All right? Understand.
Yeah, I do.
Understand that this could cost the whole election. And she is a Russian agent.
Yes. So my question is, do you give her oxygen? By talking about her, do we give her oxygen and make more people aware of her? Or is it better to starve her?
She's pushing herself out there. We didn't give her any oxygen. We did not put the photo. No one in 2016 knew that she was paid by the Russian government. I don't know, but you ought to tell people that. I mean, there's this idiotic progressive argument that power without principle is immoral. Okay, well, they're like principle without power. She's on the ballot in all the key states. She is put there, in my opinion, based on the photograph that I saw with my own eyes, that is the most underreported story in modern American politics. I don't get it.
If you were sitting down right now with Kamala Harris for the next 10 minutes, what would you say to her?
Pick a thing and stay with the thing and drive it home relentlessly. In every event, in every surrogate, in everything you do, be related to the centrality of that single thing. And you have so many assets that are not available to the other side. They have no surrogates. You have completely unified coalition. You have more money. You have more cultural influence 10 times. Use your advantages and be singular in your focus. And don't get distracted about the day after the election. Or don't get distracted by the Quinnipiac poll says this or that. Stay on a singular thing.
So what should the singular theme be? You're famous for creating the statement, it's the economy, stupid.
We're going to lose the idea of what the United States is. Mm-hmm. We have a guy that the director of national intelligence says that he thinks is an agent of the Kremlin. Sounds to me, you have 2 4-star generals saying that his fascist to his bone. Well, fascism, go put a Google on the different ways you can express. People say, well, they don't know what fascism is. Well, they know what authoritarian is. They know what throwing opponents. He's actually saying that I'm going to put my political opponents in jail. How un-American is that? But we're going to talk about the Poland. Well, he's talking about, and he would go out and say, I'm going to put my political opponents in jail. And then you would have the shovel brigade cleaning up and say, well, what he really meant. And he comes back, no, that's what I really meant. But the democratic progressive infrastructure is going to be fretting about this, that, everything that they can get distracted by, that is going to try to convey to people how smart they are. When you just stay focused on a singular thing. All my political professional life has been trying to drill that in. And I have to tell you, I've not been very successful.
Well, in your op-ed today, you talk about how you have 3 good reasons to believe Kamala would win the election for sure. I'm sensing that she is drilling down on some pretty key principles like what you're discussing. Are you feeling that they're wavering from that? I feel like they're very on message.
I always think you can do better. I'm never satisfied. I'm always fidgety. I'm always nervous, but I'm always confident. You're never any better than you think you are. So I was a guy that grew up in a impoverished place. I went to a state school. I didn't have any success until I was after 40. But I always thought I was better than anybody, and I had enormous self-confidence, and that's the way it is.
So I very much enjoyed the documentary about you, Carville, Winning is Everything Stupid. In it, you foresaw that President Biden was going to be too old for a re-election. You also said that you thought the best way forward for the Democrats was to have had an open convention and made it a fantastic sort of spectacle for everybody to engage in. Given how Biden nominated Kamala and it all took place, do you feel okay about that, or do you still wish that they'd had a process?
You know, there's a saying in the Marine Corps, wish in one hand and spit in the other, see which one feels better. They actually don't say spit, but I'm going to be respectful for high-class publication. All right. I don't have time, be singular. I can't be retrospective. All right. I have to live. I'm a person that lives in the present. I don't live in the past. I don't live in the future. I live, what do we do today to be focused, to draw a contrast, to frame an issue, to use the communication resources we have at our disposal and marshal those resources to drive a point home. I never viewed myself as a deep thinker. I never viewed myself as a person that has historical connectivity through history to the present and past into the future. I view myself as someone who lives in the present, who has a singular objective, and that's to win the election. If I could go back and redo from July the 21st to the start of the Democratic Convention, I can't live in that world. That's not a place that I want to occupy. When this is over and the votes are counted, like anybody else, I'll say, well, what lessons do we learn here? But right now, we got 12 days to go or whatever it is. It's a short time. You probably have less than that to drive it across. And every minute that we're not doing that is a minute that we're wasting.
You've spent a lot of time observing the American voter. Are we ready in America for a woman president?
I mean, yes. Can I answer that?
I don't know. But guess what? Is she going to change genders in the next 11 days? I don't think so. Are we ready for a person of, African and Indian descent? I don't know, but that's what we got. All right. We did have a woman candidate for president in 2016 that actually won the popular vote. But what difference does it make? I'm not trying to be difficult.
No, it's fine. So today's lesson is be constructive, act today. There's not much time left. Be singular in purpose, move forward. Every time we are spending talking about theories around things, are minutes we are wasting. Nailed it. So it's phone bank time.
James, is the most singular, effective thing one can do phone banking?
I think postcard writing is really good. And I'd never thought I'd say this, but there's something called Markers for Democracy. And they provide people with names. So you can get 15 people at a table and say, okay, let's each one of us write 150 postcards. And they'll select a name for you. There'll be some rationale. There'll be people who would, if they voted, would vote Democratic, but don't have a great voting history. Or there'll be people that they think, some method to it that are loosely aligned people. They could be convinced. But then I have all kinds of friends of mine that call me and said, I go with my daughter this happens a lot. My daughter, we're going to Pennsylvania. We're going to Bucks County. We're walking precincts. I said, are they giving you a lift? She said, yeah, they actually have. Okay, good. Because if you just show up and just start willy-nilly knocking on doors, you're probably not going to do that well. Mm-hmm. But if you want to do something, my suggestion would be to postcard writing. But if you feel compelled to just, I want to be out and I want to be with the people, I want to go, then show up and get a list from the county headquarters. And they're pretty good about that. You know where you need to go. You need to go to Bucks in Pennsylvania.
Well, Joanna, I want to be home when you knock on my door, when you roll up in your sedan.
I'm going to start sending you postcards too. James, I'm going to send you a postcard. And Sam, I'm going to send you a postcard.
Perfect.
Yeah, send me a postcard. Most people don't get a lot of mail and they get a postcard and, hey, my name is such and such. I just want to tell you, I'm ask you to consider voting for Kamala Harris because I think she really embodies what America can be and what we all want us to be. And that's a flourishing, pluralistic democracy that is respectful of everybody. Okay. Just try that off the top of your head. And I'll be hoping that you will join me on November 5th in voting for her.
I've forgotten how to write anything that long by hand.
Okay. Well, I have a short attention span, so I'm probably a pretty good postcard writer.
Well, this was very interesting. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
I love the beast and I love the conversation. And, as you can see, I'm a man of singular focus.
Well,
Yes.
We'll see you on the other side, as you put it.
Whatever is on the other side.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, he's right about staying focused, I suppose.
He's right about staying focused. I'll give him that.
Are you drinking out of an Emma Bridgewater mug?
I am. It has owls on it.
Oh, that's very sweet. I have a lot of her mugs. I love them.
I love birds and I love owls.
Who doesn't love a good owl?
In today's world, customer experience, or CX for short, is being completely revolutionized, and one company is leading the charge, Five9. What they're doing is really interesting. They're integrating AI into customer experiences through phone calls, text, email, chat. It's all getting smarter and more streamlined, which is a win for brands and consumers. Massive companies like PayPal and Walgreens are already using Five9 to enable top-tier customer experiences where typically you might not expect it. Because brands have seen how powerful great customer experiences can be. It leads to higher profits, better customer retention, all types of business outcomes, which is why more brands should be looking to elevate how they engage with customers. So if you want to know how you can elevate your CX game, check out five9.com/beast.
Okay, tell me what's going on in your world other than being just splashed across the pages of the Power 100 or whatever it's called.
Whatever it's called. Well, I am obsessed with the fact that New York Magazine's media story has been completely overwhelmed or overtaken by their own news that their chief political reporter, Olivia Nuzzi, was the subject of an independent review after it was revealed that she'd been having a digital affair with RFK Jr. And that though she had done nothing wrong, or that they hadn't found any evidence of influence from RFK in her reporting, though I'm not quite sure how you would actually quantify that, she was nevertheless leaving the magazine. And that completely took the oxygen out of their issue.
As you know, I have severe anxiety about talking about female reporters. So I guess we'll get into it because we're bringing in a special guest.
Yes, well, when we come back, we'll be joined by Harry Lambert, who's been reporting on this for the Daily Beast, and he's got a very interesting take on the whole story.
Okay, we're going to be a threesome.
We are going to be a threesome.
In the most innocent possible way.
Maybe it's a digital threesome. So we're now joined by our special Beast correspondent, Harry Lambert. And Harry, you've been working on two stories I'm obsessed by this week, and the media, in fact, is obsessed with. One we'll come back to, which is the New York Magazine Olivia Nuzzi RFK Jr. story. But the other one that I really want to talk to you about too, because you wrote an excellent profile of him, is the fact that Donald Trump is doing an interview with Joe Rogan tomorrow. Rogan is probably the most popular podcaster in the world at this point. And Trump has done the sort of understudy podcasts. He did the Lex Friedman podcast, did the Theo Von podcast. So now he's doing the sort of granddaddy podcast. This is the guy that invented what someone called wallpaper audio. You know, like those Netflix shows that just play in the background. You don't really need to
pay any attention to them. Rogan did the same thing for
Okay,
the
so
podcast.
I just want to see how many episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast Sam B has actually listened to.
Okay, the total amount of Joe Rogan podcastery that I have listened to is 0 minutes. 0 minutes. I've never in my life listened because I don't care for wallpaper programming of any sort. I don't care for television wallpaper. I don't care for podcast wallpaper.
You do have very good wallpaper in your kitchen.
I don't need extra wallpaper, and I'm not like a weightlifter or really interested in any type of health tips or vaccine misinformation. So I haven't really been an avid listener to this point. Things could change. Things won't change.
And to me, Joe Rogan just feels like by men, for men, about men, couldn't be less interested. Though I do like men, and I do like to say I did actually give birth to 2 men. So I like them that much, but not enough to listen to Joe Rogan.
Well, that's the thing about him. He worked out what his audience was. He had that from the very beginning. I mean, if you look at the arc of his career, and this surprised me, it might surprise you, he was a key figure in News Radio, the sitcom in the 90s.
Yes.
He basically played a character like Joey from Friends, very good-humoured, thick head of hair, unlike now. And then he's
totally bald now,
He's
isn't
totally
he?
bald and jacked, as he always was, but increasingly jacked. I mean, he takes testosterone, he takes human growth hormone. He openly discusses this.
Should we be taking human growth hormone? I think we should.
Oh boy.
What would
I
happen
have strong
if we took
opinions.
it?
What would happen, Joanna? You'd have a 6-pack. That's what would happen.
Then I definitely need to be taking it. I need to be taking it right now.
I'm so sorry, but I did see the headline, and just thinking about Joe Rogan as a kingmaker I'm just not sure I'm made for this world. I'm not sure I'm here for this media world anymore. I mean, perhaps I should just...
Walter Cronkite back?
that's
Ted
not what
Koppel.
I'm saying. I'm saying that maybe I should find myself a comfy bench and just stare out the window for the remainder of my life.
Well, maybe for the remainder of this election. But is this his answer to Kamala doing Call Her Daddy?
Well, there's that, but there's also Kamala brief that she might go on Rogan. I think the first thing, look, it isn't a podcast for you guys or for many people or even for me, but it's interesting how he managed to create an appeal, right? So what he did is not just produce wallpaper audio, but he gave people at the time this insight into figures who would never have sat down for interviews of 3 hours before and had such an open discussion. You know, he'd give people a drink, he'd give them a joint. He'd have Musk on, Miley Cyrus on, Edward Snowden on to talk about things that, you know, were otherwise being covered in very short form. So he did something pretty innovative. He also, I think, which is the fascinating bit for me, is he kind of created a self-help ideology online for men when the field, I think, had been thought of by men as essentially a feminine form. They didn't need help. And he legitimized the idea that you could speak to young men and say, look, I've got my life together. I'm just a guy working out, trying to be curious about the world. And if you're struggling out there, like, listen to this podcast, be part of the community of people trying to take an interest in the world. So he created, if you like, a safe space. And that's why he is now a kingmaker in an election where...
I'm sorry, I can't. It's so funny to me. Oh my God. I mean, it's fine. I accept that that's the reality. Just need a sip of my chai.
But it's true that this is the podcast election.
Right. And if it's the podcast election, then it makes sense that Trump would go on his program. But I think nothing's really going to come out of the Trump, Hostage to Fortune podcast with Rogan. The much more interesting interview would have been Kamala versus Rogan, because Rogan's podcast is really, it's so unlike anything Kamala's trained for. Kamala's ready for the jab, jab, jab of a news broadcast interview, list of questions being fired at her, which she can fend off in various ways. She's not really prepared for and has never trained for an interview in which she'll give her nothing but rope. And that's what Rogan does. He just gives you rope, just gives you time to hang yourself. Trump, plays by his own rules. He's measured by his own rules. So people won't really mind if he goes off script. Kamala,
well,
she
there is
went
no
on.
script for Trump, right? He's
Right.
never been on script, apart from when he was doing The Apprentice, oddly. Now he's off script. Do you think that there's anything that Rogan can do to have Trump actually hang himself with his own words? Or do you think at this point it's beyond that?
The thing Rogan doesn't like is he doesn't like inconsistency and authenticity. So he wanted to vote for Bernie at one point in 2020, and then he wanted to vote for RFK because he thought they were both consistent people. And so he could try and...
consistently crackpot, yes.
Yeah, right. Well, he could try and skewer Trump on consistency. But I don't see a lot coming out of it. The only thing I might see come out of it is 5,000 men in Pennsylvania who might not otherwise have voted, thinking maybe I should vote for Trump.
And he does have millions of listeners, right? I know Sam isn't among them.
I don't even, it's just, I mean, you know, I don't even know really what to say about this world.
Well,
I don't. I really don't. I'm just kind of at a loss. I'm kind of like, well, okay. So many people are going to listen to this podcast. It's going to normalize them further. It's going to deepen people's... Either of you think Trump is hilariously funny, or you think he's an addled crazy man, which is what I happen to think. And I find it so worrying. I find it so worrying.
Do you think Kamala will say yes to doing the Rogan podcast?
I'm not sure Rogan's going to invite her on.
I thought he already had. I thought he'd already said that he's up for either of them.
Most of this has come from the Kamala campaign. They've said they're considering going on. But Rogan didn't... I mean, Rogan said he didn't actually want to help Trump out in 2022. So this is a shift in focus. I think the one thing I would say about Rogan is Rogan did seem normal in the 90s. And in many ways, he is normal in the sense that he's... I mean, Trump isn't, but you know, he came up through Fear Factor, through UFC. He was the color commentator for UFC for the last 20 years. It's a normal part of the media ecosystem. It's just not one that maps very well onto democratic politics, which is why Kamala would be such an odd guest on the show. You know, everyone else that has gone on recently is essentially a figure of the MAGA right.
Oh, God. I'm at a complete loss. I'm just at a loss. I think it's so bad.
You're at a menopausal loss.
I am. I'm probably going to start to sweat any second now. I don't have any insight. I have no follow-ups. I don't have any questions. I just can't believe that we have to think about the Joe Rogan podcast in this way. For fans of it who are fans of it, that's great. It's wonderful. I would never listen to it. I don't relate to it. And it makes me feel sad. Ugh.
I do think your point that it could get 5,000 men in each of the swing states out to vote, and it could have much more influence than perhaps people expected. And just talk a little bit. I mean, we were both recently at a talk with Scott Galloway where he talked about this being the podcast election. Sam and I are kingmakers and queenmakers.
Queenmakers, kingmakers, what have you.
Absolutely, we are. So we're all up for the podcast election. But what did he mean by that?
Well, I just think you've got an extremely fragmented media system at this point, right? People are going on shows you've never even heard of to squeeze out those few thousand votes here or there. And it's familiar in many ways, but this is the first election where all of those trends have coalesced, where you start, you know, every day someone's on a podcast you didn't know about, where it's appealing to some niche, or is it, how do I say it in America?
Niche.
I thought it was different in America.
No, it's niche, but it's click you're thinking of, I think. Clique and click. And then I think...
foyer.
And foyer.
Yes.
Is it foyer? What do we say?
I thought it was niche in America.
They say
here
niche. They say foyer.
They say niche? I thought it was niche.
Could
you just say that one more time? Foyer.
Foyer.
How would Melania say it?
Well, she knows how to say foyer.
But it kind of makes it more interesting, doesn't it, running a campaign? Because you now got to go work out where all these pockets of power are. It's kind of fascinating. You don't just go on ABC News and do a big sit down.
No, well, the media is changing, and we know that because New York Magazine has its media power issue out this week. But oddly, and I like New York Magazine, I used to work there, but oddly it managed to overshadow its own story by announcing that Olivia Nuzzi, its chief political correspondent, would in fact be leaving the magazine, even though an independent investigation by a law firm that they'd called in decided that her digital affair with RFK Jr. hadn't actually impacted her political reporting. I'm not quite sure how they would know that. But despite the fact that the independent report found she was not at fault, she's leaving the magazine, which totally overshadowed their media issue. You have been following this story since the beginning. Give us an update where we are, because this story has really electrified the media, I think it's fair to say. Olivia and her then fiance, Ryan Lizzer, sort of presented as a modern day Nora Ephron and Carl Bernstein. And now they appear to be going through an extraordinary breakup.
Right, they were the sort of Washington golden couple, right? So he had been for 10 years the New Yorker's Washington correspondent. For the past 5, he'd been at Politico, co-writing the Town Bible playbook. She had been at New York Magazine as their DC correspondent for about 7 years. And so, you know, they were both independently major figures in their own right. He on the center left, her on the sort of center right, if you like.
And her profiles, you've read her profiles.
I've liked them very much. I think
She's a great writer.
She's a great writer. I'm sad that she's leaving because I'm really going to miss her reporting there. I thought it was excellent.
But the thing about this story is there's their journalistic careers, then there's the catalyst which broke them up, which is the RFK affair. And then there is, to me, the most fascinating question of all that's relatively unexamined, and that is the court filings that they have both now put through DC Superior Court. So they present 2 completely different pictures of this entire affair. Olivia's picture has been quite well reported on and scrutinized. She describes Liza as a sort of jealous and abusive ex who blackmailed her or attempted to blackmail her into staying with him when he found out about the RFK affair. That took up all the attention for about 2 weeks. Liza offered a brief denial, but he didn't get into any details until last week where he counterfiled. And he counterfiled and painted a completely different archetype. Instead of the jealous ex, this was an innocent man who's been framed, who's been wronged by his former fiancée. And the big difference between their two filings...
Just so I'm clear, framed for what?
Well, he says he's been framed for having anything to do with, first of all, the leaking of the information. Nuzzi claims that Liza was the one who leaked the information into the media. He says it's completely untrue. Framed for threatening her with physical violence, a claim she made in her filing. He says that's completely untrue. He never did so. Framed for stealing her devices and taking material from her phone.
And that's presumably the texts that she was exchanging
with RFK Jr.
Right. Because it was only the claim appears to be that it was only a digital affair, correct?
Right, an electronic affair in some way, FaceTiming, text, whatever that means. I think that the fascinating thing about this is the big difference between the filings is Liz's is full of detail and Nuzzi's is not. Liz's is full of direct quotes and Nuzzi's is not. Liz's is laid out.
Direct quotes from where?
Well, theoretically, we don't know because we're not seeing the actual evidence, but theoretically from text that Olivia had sent him and everything else. And the picture he paints is after he found out about the affair in mid-August, for a month they tried to stay together. And Nuzzi very much wanted to stay with him, which is completely different to what she said. He says that he didn't want to stay with her, and by mid-September, they broke off, and just a few days later the story came out. And then to his great shock and surprise, Nuzzi blamed him in this extraordinary way in this DC court filing. So this is as yet unadjudicated, but I think it's really important to state that you can file anything in a DC Superior Court. You don't have to reach any level of proof to do so. And it's a great way to defame someone, frankly. And Liza may have been defamed, and he certainly thinks he's ready or stood ready to tell the judge why he's been falsely accused.
I mean, she was initially suspended from New York Magazine. He's now been suspended from his job at Politico.
Yes, completely. And it's important to say that Nuzzi says that his claims are wrong. So, you just got two sides warring with each other. But I think the interesting thing, talking to the Nuzzi camp about this, is I'm not sure they're going to offer the point-by-point detail and rebuttal that Liza did. It's almost like, Liza's now in the mud with them, and that's that. But I think it's potentially a very unfortunate situation because there is a truth here. Both filings can't be true. And someone's been deeply wronged here.
Where do we think RFK Jr. is in all of this?
Well, I mean, he's the catalyst for the whole thing. At this point, I feel he's almost out of the story. He broke the two of them up and has managed to fail upwards as he always has.
Well, has he failed upwards? He's failed up to the Donald Trump camp.
Well, I actually think he comes out
fine, right?
I recuse myself from having an opinion on this story. I actually do. I can't have an opinion about it. I just feel like it's a really private catastrophe that's just like playing itself out in such a damaging way, and I hate it so much. I'm going to miss her reporting. It's a really sad and awful story. I think actually the only person who comes out unscathed is RFK Jr., and he's a pig. He's a pig at the center of this story.
I agree with that completely, but should Liza come out of it scathed? Because it's not clear that he has done anything wrong. That's my fear about it.
I guess for me, I just don't, I mean, beyond what happened, and she was just kind of cleared by the independent agency. Now it's just a fight between two people in court. So I guess beyond having any kind of sense of whether this impacted anybody's reporting, I've just stopped. I can't engage. I just can't engage with it. And it makes me feel, again, I have two stories that are making me feel so badly about the world, because I think that RFK Jr. is a disgusting human being. And I just think the focus should be on him.
Well,
actually.
And the extraordinary thing that he's now hustling, having done the one thing that his wife, Cheryl Hines, his third wife, Cheryl Hines, said she couldn't forgive, which would be to endorse Trump. Not only has he endorsed Trump, he's now hustling to be the head of Health and Human Services, which, given the alienation he's caused in the mainstream medical world with his vaccine theories or anti-vaccine theories, seems absolutely extraordinary. And yet, living in the world that we live in now, it doesn't seem impossible he could end up with that job.
Ugh, it disgusts me. I just have tremendous anxiety about deepening the story about a young female reporter who I've just admired so much. I wish, on her behalf, that the story would just die down and that it wasn't playing out in this way. It is. I understand it. It's intriguing. Everybody's talking about it, but I've been on the receiving end of this kind of attention, and I hate it so much, and I hate it for her.
The only thing about that, I completely agree. I think the way she was initially sort of lynch mobbed on Twitter over this whole thing was terrible, and she is a great reporter. But she then chose to go to DC Superior Court and make a series of extraordinary allegations about Lizzo, which she knew were public.
I know.
So it's like you can't say that.
I know. It's just awful.
So it's. I guess for me, I was amazed how little detail was in the initial filing, and I was surprised how much was in Liz's counterfiling. And the only reason I'm still fascinated by the story is, we've all seen the movie of an innocent man wronged. And I'm now intrigued by whether that's happened here. I'm also obviously willing to believe that, Nuzi's story is true too, but the big difference is someone has to supply the evidence. And so far it seems like Lizzo is more willing to supply evidence than Nuzi.
Well, Nuzi is apparently heartbroken, and Nora Ephron, all our role models, I would like to say. I don't know if she was yours, but certainly mine.
And my sisters.
Right, and your sister. Well, she took her heartbreak, turned it into heartburn, went to Hollywood and owned her story. So I hope Olivia does that too.
Me too. I'll be there. I'll buy a ticket.
If you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard us talk about Five9, the revolutionary customer experience platform that is redefining how customers interact with brands. Everyone wants to be treated well and have a great customer experience, and in today's world, that is a huge competitive advantage. But most companies see it as just ticking a box. They're missing out on incredible brand building and revenue generating opportunities that are everywhere across businesses. All of those consumer touch points that you don't think of, those are the moments your brand can use to create an advantage. Five9's intelligent AI-driven platform lets you make all those moments better and totally seamless. If you want to build a powerful brand that people love, check out five9.com/beast. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share the episode with a friend or a colleague you want to argue with.
And if you're doing that, why not share it with your neighbor who has electrified the Trump sign on their lawn?
Tag us on your favorite social platforms and tell us what you think, and we'll be back next Thursday with another episode of the Daily Beast podcast.
As my former muse once said, be best.
But here, Sam, we say be beast.
We do.